Okay, this time I want to talk about the Affordable Care Act. That's been in the news again lately. And this time the Democrats are actually trying to get some of their members to support the repeal of the excise tax, 2.3% excise tax on Obamacare. And they're the ones who voted for this bill. They knew there was an excise tax in this bill. People were warning that this would be a destructive tax ahead of time. And Democrats are saying, oh, no, chicken littles, the sky is falling. Well, now that this healthcare law has proved to be so unpopular, now they are wanting to repeal the excise tax. And while I naturally hope that a tax as destructive as this is would be repealed, I hope people forget. I hope people never forget that it's the Democrats that wanted this tax, and they got such a shellacking in the last election, and they're scared it'll be worse in the next election. They're basically running for cover on this. But again, I hope people don't forget that the Democrats were behind this tax. And I can speak from direct experience on this, that the company I worked for had its profit cut drastically by this excise tax. Because an excise tax, by definition, is a tax on revenue instead of profit. As such, it reduced the profit of the company I worked for from $100 million to $50 million. Well over 12% of the company received layoff notices, several thousand people just at one company. And when I was reading the news about it at the time, that there are other companies which operated on a slimmer profit margin than the one I worked for, I can only imagine how bad the layoffs must have been at those companies. That, just one company, $50 million is just pulled out of it like that. There is pulling that kind of money out of the private sector is always destructive. The Democrats are realizing this, but they aren't concerned about the economy. They're concerned about votes. They're concerned about power. They're concerned that people are going to be really pissed off about this. And it's damage control for them. They don't really care. They haven't really seen the error of their ways. They're just trying to prevent further loss of votes. And I hope people don't forget. And I've argued about this and I've argued about this, and people just don't understand it. Leftists just don't understand it. I explained this to them using hard numbers about how this tax undermined the prosperity of the company I worked for. It totally upset people's lives. People that had secure jobs that they enjoyed, that paid well, that they don't have anymore. It changed the whole course of their lives. And there aren't enough jobs to go around. It's not easy to go out and get another job. Many of these people are still unemployed. And this is all at this is all the fault of the Democrats forcing this destructive law down people's throats. The law as a whole is destructive. And this 2.3% tax is just one aspect of its destructiveness, but it's a short way of illustrating how destructive this law is when thousands of people lost their jobs over it. This constant interference in the markets by excessive taxation. And that's a prime example. It cut the dollar amount of one company in half. And that company fared better than many others. When are people going to realize that these leftists do nothing but destroy what has taken generations to build? That company I worked for, incidentally, had been in existence since the early 60s, and that's the first time they'd had a layoff ever. That gives you hopefully some insight into the nature of this. That company had done just fine all those years, had never had to lay anyone off, and now all of a sudden people are being laid off from that company over a tax. And like I said, I've gone around and around with people on this, and They just don't understand. They don't attribute the layoffs at that company to that tax. For some reason, they don't understand that pulling that huge amount of money out of a company means that that company has to make adjustments to control costs. And it took the form of laying a whole bunch of people off.